Joe Brady, the new offensive coordinator of the Carolina Panthers, did his first ever interview as a member of the Carolina Panthers. It was very vague. He didn't give very much information. He kept saying over and over again, and he made a good point. He said, I don't want to do a disservice by making claims that I'm not prepared to make. I haven't watched a lot of film. And he even joked about not being able to find his office yet. He's clearly very new to the Carolina Panthers. But I don't think he meant to, and this is not a bad thing, by the way. When I say that, it makes it sound like Joe Brady did something bad. But he gave an important answer that I think reveals why OTAs are so important. So OTAs, what that stands for is organized team activities. There are mandatory there are voluntary OTAs, which means that players don't have to show up to them. And so first, I want to be clear that all the best coaches in really any sport, I believe, but especially football, are really good at evaluating their players, figuring out what their players' skill set and what their strengths are, and then designing an offense or designing a defense or designing a scheme that takes advantage of the skill set of their players. So you, as a coach, it's your job to tailor your system to your players to make the most and get the most out of your players. That's what I believe good coaches do. You're like, is this guy fast? Does he have good hands? Is he good at jumping? Is he good at three-pointers? What is he good at? And how can we adjust our system to fit the needs of the player? And you can do this by, one of the ways you can evaluate your players is by watching tape. But I want it to be very clear that while watching tape is a great way to evaluate a player and a great way to evaluate their strengths and evaluate what they're good at, an even better way to do that is to play catch with them. An even better way to do that is to see them live in person, because what you see on tape is one thing. But when you see a player in person, you might recognize traits and recognize qualities and skill sets you couldn't see on tape because they didn't do them. A great example is maybe on tape you never see a guy make cover great in zone. He's never covered in zone coverage because the team ran man the entire time. But then you get him on the field and you're like, oh, this guy's really great at zone coverage. This isn't in his tape anywhere. My point is there are some traits and qualities about a player you can't see on tape. And even if you can't see them on tape, it's actually better played out in person. So every year there are reports of a player, there will be this year again, skipping OTAs. This player is skipping organized team activities, or he's skipping mandatory meetings, or this or that. But the reason why it's a big deal that a player skips OTAs or skips those organized team activities is because he's not working with the coaching staff, and the coaching staff isn't getting to get to know you, the player, in person. They're not getting to witness your skill set live and in person, which means that it makes it more difficult for them to build a scheme around the player's skill set and the player's strengths if they haven't ever worked with you or haven't worked with you in a long time in person, face-to-face. Again, you can see skill on film, but there's even more depth in person when you see someone and work with them face-to-face and in person. This is why organized team activities matter in the NFL. At some point, in months from now, you're going to read stories that this guy's skipping OTAs or that guy's skipping OTAs or this or that. The reason why it's important for players to go to OTAs and the reason why it's important and newsworthy that down the road players are going to skip OTAs is because it makes it harder for coaches to get to know a player's skill set and build an offense around it. When you get to know someone in person, you get to see them live, it's easier for you to build a playbook and build a system around the strength of the player you're talking about.